Typical Friday for us to progress on all phases, review everything for the game, get some guys moving. Got a number of injured guys. We'll move around with the trainers today, kind of see where they're going to progress as far as going into practice. The number one question I'm sure you guys will have about Daniel's status. Look, at this point, he has not been cleared for contact, so we're going to go ahead and hold him out of this game. You know, at this point, we don't feel 100% comfortable with him until the medical team clears him fully. So as of right now, we'll rule him out. We'll evaluate him for the future, including as soon as next week. You know, with the doctors, we don't have any answers on the immediate future yet, but his status for this week will be he'll be out.
Will he go to Miami with you since you're going to Arizona from there?
He'll go to Miami.
Did Daniel, based on his personality, want to fight you, or just, I got to listen to the doctors and that's it, or is he saying I want to?
Daniel always wants to play, and he's going to try to find every which way possible to play and convince us to play. I've talked about that in the past. It's the thing you love about Daniel is how competitive he is and how much he wants to go ahead and fight to get on the field. All that being said, you know, we had to make a decision.
Joe, is it just a strained neck? Is there any?
I'm not going to go into any specifics about the injury. I'm going to keep it just as what the status is. I'm not going to talk about the injury specifically.
But it's more than pain tolerance for him, right?
I'm not going into anything on the injury right there.
You've alluded a couple of times that I think you said, we asked you if it was season ending, and you said not at this point. You said
I would say at this point that would remain true.
But there's a concern that it could be longer term than just a week.
No, we just have ruled him out for this week, and we'll evaluate everything for the future as we get through it.
Joe, you normally don't tell us ahead of time. Why?
Just being forthcoming with you today. I don't know, maybe I'm in a funny mood today. You know, look, in this case, it was just time to go ahead and say it. We made a determination. You know, Daniel will still be out here today with the team. He'll actually still go through practice, do some things. Look, he's actually looked well moving. That's been encouraging, the way he's thrown the ball, the operation with the team. That's all been very good. You know, he's still Daniel, still leading on and off the field, still doing everything we ask him to do. I know this is frustrating for him, but it's a decision we have to make that's best for him.
And Mike taking over, no problem?
No, we have a lot of confidence in Mike. He's played for us this year. He's played well times when he's gone in. Look, we expect Mike to go in and run the offense.
Joe, was there an appointment that Daniel had to go to try to receive final clearance before today?
There's been a series of checkups, and this morning we had a meeting with the medical team, and based on the information that was given and the decision that's been best for Daniel, the ruling's been he's out for this game.
Joe, what did the doctors tell you about why he wasn't tested for a concussion? Because neck, head, I mean, why not test?
You know, I haven't given any information or been given any information on that. I would say in terms of the flow of the game, you know, there was a couple shots he took. I think, you know, there was one specifically, but typical Daniel, he just got up, bounced back. I mean, obviously they didn't call down from the booth. They didn't put him in the protocol as far as the league looking. The officials didn't throw a flag on it or anything. So I don't know if there's enough red flags right there, Pat, based on how he reacted to something or anything they saw on the field to definitely go ahead and put him in now.
I just mean even like during the week, like once he develops this.
Oh, as far as within a week?
Yeah.
Well, they've talked through symptoms and different things. I thought you were talking specifically in the game.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, they obviously go through all the checkups for all that stuff.
Oh, okay. All right.
Joe, that's a lot of change for your offense. New play caller last week, new quarterback this week. I mean, how do those two things mesh? I mean, you have like if Freddie was working with Daniel, at least you'd have steadiness at quarterback. If Mike was working with Jason, you'd have steadiness to offensive coordinator. How do those two mesh when you have so much change?
Well, Mike worked with Freddie all last week as well. So, you know, everyone's job is to be prepared. It's our job to put in a position to go out there and make plays. But in terms of Mike does a great job of being ready every week. Does a great job of that. You know, he's a true professional. He's a good teammate. He's a good leader. But in terms of him working with Freddie, yeah, no concern on that at all.
The plan for Jake to be the number 2?
The plan is for Jake to be number 2, yes.
How do you get? Go ahead.
How much progress have you been able to make with him this week that, you know, you're able to feel confident with him as the number 2 with what?
Jake?
2 or 3 days in, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's anything that's truly unique about getting a player earlier in the week, like a Tuesday, and getting ready for a Sunday game. You know, really, you look through kind of.
It's not different for a quarterback, then?
Well, I think it's for anybody. If you pick up a safety or any other kind of signal caller, there's always a lot of things that go into it. You know, what you try to do with quarterbacks, you know, or any of those players in signal caller positions, is compartmentalize things for them. You know, and trying to use same as teaching and get into the concepts and the families of what we're doing and bring them along. I think Jake's a smart guy. He's definitely putting a lot of hours of work this week, you know, with Jerry Shaplinsky, Nick Williams, a bunch of other guys as far as getting caught up. He's been on the field. He's operated through, you know, our practices. He's done some good things. Obviously, there's some, you know, schemes and system things that have carried over from other offenses that a lot of teams had. Just it's known what the verbiage is. But he's done a good job so far coming along for us.
Joe, how do you get the run game going? And do you feel like you have core runs in your playbook that you can go to that are, staples of what you want to do as an offense?
Well, I talk all the time about versatility as a team. So in terms of the core runs, what we work to do is build in through training camp and spring, a variety of runs and families that you get. You want to be able to run different varieties of zones as well as gap, pin and pull type runs. Different ones apply to different teams, and you have to have a variety within each game as well. So to just go into each game and simply say, this is what we are, this is who we are, you have to have an identity within it. But then also, I talk all the time, is you have to be flexible to play certain teams. The team we're playing this week, they're going to have a lot of answers for a lot of things you do, and you have to be able to go ahead and change it up and keep moving on them and making sure you keep giving them different looks as well. So in terms of what runs we go to, we have a core family of runs that we work off of. You can take a family of powers, counters, gaps, zones. You can take those and say, now how do we want to go ahead and run these this week? Is it formation? Is it motion? Is it run out of a base type of situation? And you've got to find how that works against that team and then get incorporated in the game plan. Generally speaking, you can look at every team and say, okay, what are the main things this team runs? Now you play certain teams, you say this is a heavy outside stretch team to inside zone looking for the cutback, and then they mix in like a game plan counter here or there. You look at other teams, and they've got their family of pin and pulls. There's other teams like Frisco and Baltimore do a great job of just game plan runs. And it's different varieties of counters and powers and stretches and things of that nature with different, schemed up blocks. There's other teams that, may turn around and just say, this is who we are, what we run. But to me, I think it's important for all three phases to have flexibility within the game plan, because I ultimately believe it's important to play every opponent differently. It's important to play in what you have to do to be successful against that opponent that week. That every game plan, it's not Xerox, it move on next week. That's not what this league is.
Joe, I know you've obviously been asked familiarity with opponents throughout your stay here the last 2 years with guys on staffs, and I know it happens across the league. You've also been asked a lot about you and Flo this week. But is there a difference between familiarity and then going up against an opponent that sees the game a lot of the same ways that you see? You guys, like you said, grew up together. Does that make it more challenging? Do you almost fight the temptation to kind of reinvent yourself on a given week, but knowing that they kind of believe the same thing that you do?
Yeah, we've actually had a lot of those conversations this week, even players asking us the same thing. And I think ultimately you've got to call it the best way you think can be called for that game. And that's a large part of the matchups they have on their roster and our roster. But in terms of the philosophies of it, look, me and Flo sat next to each other in a lot of meetings for a lot of years, watching practice tape every day, watching 2-minute drives, 4-minute drives, and talking through, I would do it this way, or here's another way we could do it. There's a lot of time that we spent, me, him, Pat, Jerry, other coaches on that staff, where we were always talking ball. You'd end squad meeting, go in the cafeteria and get a coffee before breaking, and all people would talk about is, hey, did you see that game last night on Thursday night? Did you see how they handled that 2-minute? Hey, they could have done this, they could have done that. So we've had a lot of these discussions and conversations now. I think with all of us, we've built in enough variety of a menu that you can approach things from the same philosophy but different schematically, if that makes sense. Find different ways of attacking it. To answer your question in terms of just, do you have to try to be something different than what you are to just go ahead and mask it? I don't think that's always the answer. I think you have to understand how Flo's going to approach it, how he's going to coach the game, and then what we have to do to put our players in the best position. And look, a lot of times you're going to match it up where what you're trying to do is directly what he's trying to take away, schematically and situationally, and ultimately you got to make sure you put the right player in the right place and they got to make a play.
Joe, I saw Daniel walk out on the field. I assume he's not taking any snaps today, and Mike will get, and Jake?
Daniel will get some work. The majority of the team work as we prep for Miami will go to Mike and Jake. But he'll take some work through drills and fundamentals and stuff. We'll still keep him going and moving. One thing I don't want to do is decondition him and pull him out for the entire week, which obviously he's been going through with the first team offense throughout the week. I don't want to do anything that would decondition him and set him back for him being ready for future games.
Joe, what? Just in general, what accounts for the gray area over whether this is season ending or not? I know you're saying not at this time, it doesn't appear that way, but what accounts for the gray area there?
Because there's really gray area in what it is, Pat. There's really no final decision on that. Obviously at this point, we're pushing to get him on the field as soon as he's healthy and ready to go. He wants to be on the field as well. He just wasn't clear for contact today. So in terms of what it's going to look like in immediate weeks coming up, future weeks down the stretch, there's no answers right now. Everything else would be hypothetical or guessing at this point.
When does he get rechecked?
I got to check with Ronnie officially. Doctors will be in tomorrow. He's kind of going through a series of checkups. Monday will be a day all of our players see the doctor. And then, those guys will be with us in Arizona throughout the course of the week.
By gray area with what it is, meaning there's a gray area on the diagnosis?
No, it's just a gray area. I want to be clear.